Angel. How are you
Good
doing?
afternoon.
I am good. How are y'all doing?
We are well. Thank you for asking.
Good, good. Thank y'all for having me.
No problem. No problem. Thank you for accepting.
Of course, of course. I was actually like having a lot of conversations this year, like with some of my line sisters and like friends that we graduated the same year. Like we have to like reconnect with the school because I feel like there's such a disconnect between like alumni and current students, like
Right.
beyond homecoming. So it's great that y'all like took the initiative to reach out and have been reaching out to other people. So I really applaud y'all for that. That's really great.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
You're welcome. Are y'all are doing like remote learning, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay, how is that going?
Um, it's a struggle, but our semester's ending early, so we actually get out of school. And I think like in 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks.
Oh,
And
that's
so
nice.
at first it was a struggle, but now I'm starting to get used to it. So it's been better,
Hmm.
but I still miss being on campus.
Right. I mean, that's like a huge experience. That's a huge component of like being in college. You want to be on campus. You want to see people
Right.
interact and go to events and stuff. So, yeah, that's hard. But at least y'all get an early start to holiday season. I wish I had 3 more weeks and could take a month or so off from working. I would be right there with y'all.
How you been handling the pandemic? I know it hit almost every industry hard. How have you been dealing with it?
Yeah, it's been very, very strange, honestly. So I was in New York City when the pandemic hit, like the states, and things started shutting down. New York was hit really, really hard, as I'm sure everybody knows. And when New York shut down, it shut all the way down. Businesses were closed, grocery stores had select hours, transportation was limited. Everybody takes the subway. That was like shut down. So it was just a weird adjustment, and I think I didn't grasp the full extent of what COVID was at the time, or how much of an impact it could just have on the country, the world. It's funny, I had just gotten back to New York from a wedding in Jamaica, and that's when things started shutting down the week I was gone. And I got back, and I'm like, oh, in a couple weeks we'll be back to normal. And that couple weeks turned into now almost 7 months. Um, but in terms of like working, luckily my company, so I work for Elle Magazine, and Hearst is our parent company. Luckily, our company made a commitment not to do any mass layoffs, which was a huge blessing because I have a lot of peers who work in media or for other competitive companies who did lose their jobs, whose jobs
Right.
and job security was affected. But luckily, that hasn't been the case for me and my colleagues at Hearst. But in terms of how we work, I work in video production, so I expect to be on set at least a few times a week. I expect to be in the office every day, doing pre-production, wrapping up posts on other projects, and that has not happened since March. So everything that we've done, all of the video content that we've put out since March has been shot remotely. For my brand, it's been a blessing because a lot of the talent we work with is very open to filming content for us remotely and sending it in. But the influx of it has been a little overwhelming because we used to get a lot of no's because people can't travel and be there in person, but now anybody can shoot at home and send us stuff. So that's been something to adjust to. But luckily, I can say, at least for me, and I know this is a very rare situation to be in, and I recognize the privilege in it, but I've still been able to work. My team is still working. We're still gainfully employed, and we have a very consistent workflow. So it's been an adjustment, but we're still very fortunate right now.
That's awesome.
Yes, yes. But yeah, I'm making it. I am making it. It's been a very long 2020. I will say that.
Right. So
Yes.
before we get started, I'd like to introduce the lovely Angel Lenise to our series, our speaker series. My name is Derrian Carter, junior journalism major and the president of NABJ. And along me there, we have Giana.
Yes, I'm Giana Levy, the vice president of NABJ, journalism major as well.
And I like to ask these questions before we get started. Can you use one song or movie to describe your life during the pandemic?
Oh, during the pandemic, oh my gosh. I don't know if there's a movie per se, but I can speak to what I've been listening to a lot of during the pandemic. I've been listening to a lot of Victoria Monet. I think she's a super talented songwriter, makes very amazing music. I don't think her music is definitive of a quarantine or a pandemic, but that's what I've been listening to a lot to kind of zen me out. Lucky Day. And then I'm from Texas. I don't know if y'all can see my necklace, but I'm always listening to Megan Thee Stallion. This is a Megan Thee Stallion stay-in household. So she's always on repeat. But I try to like just listen and consume things that sort of lift me up and make me feel good and not sort of like settle into the craziness of what's happening. So those three artists are really like keeping me sane and grounded right now.
Got you. So to get started, can you talk to us about why did you choose Clark Atlanta University?
Yes. I don't want to give away my age, but I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to give y'all some context. So I went to school in Dallas, Texas. That's my hometown. I was born in Waco, but I grew up in Dallas, Texas. And in high school, I was basically a majorette. I was on the dance line. My senior year, I was captain of that. And my high school was like a charter school. They didn't have sports, but we had the band, and we were a competitive band, and we were modeled after Prairie View and other Southern HBCUs. So that sort of experience in high school made me really want to consider like going to a Black school. Dallas is a huge school region in general. We have SMU, UNT, University of UTD, whatever, I don't know. It's a bunch of colleges in Dallas and the surrounding areas, but none are really HBCUs. And actually, I want to say my junior year, my senior year, my mom took me to an HBCU college fair. And at the time, I was considering Prairie View or Grambling or the University Pine Bluff in Arkansas, because they were HBCUs that were close by. We used to have band camps there, and that's what I was familiar with. But super superficial. Drumline came out, ATL had come out, and I was like, I need to go to Atlanta. I want to experience Atlanta. And funny enough, the school on the other side of the gate was actually my top choice, Spelman, but they didn't have a media program that was as robust and strong as Clark's. And Clark gave me a full ride scholarship. I actually remember the day I was in my computer class in high school, and I said, I got to get this Clark application in. So I applied and got accepted and was blessed with a full ride. But I think one thing that really distinguished Clark beyond it being just a wonderful university was the mass media program. A lot of time, there are so many amazing HBCUs, but there aren't a lot that have really robust media programs, especially in a city like Atlanta. A lot of HBCUs are in rural areas. They're an hour or two from the biggest city, but with Clark Atlanta, I was able to go to an HBCU that had a robust media program, but was also in a big major city where I could do internships and have other opportunities to sort of build my skills outside of the campus environment. So that's why Clark was it for me. Best decision of my life. I tell everybody all the time, whenever I can, that Clark was absolutely the best decision for me.
What organizations were you a part of during your time?
Oh, well, NABJ was not there, or
Wow.
I wasn't a part of it, which was so crazy. I wasn't familiar with NABJ until I went to grad school after I graduated Clark. So I wasn't a part of that, but I was a part of, let me start from the beginning, Toastmasters.
Okay.
My now husband was my then boyfriend at Clark, and he was responsible for rechartering the Toastmasters organization at Clark. So he was the president, I was one of the VPs. So I was in Toastmasters, which is amazing for like public speaking and just building your confidence in front of a crowd. I was in the campus something, whenever it was election time and they had like the PR committee that handled all the like media, I was on that. I can't remember the name, showing my age again. I was a part of CAU TV, which was instrumental for me, and especially my pursuit of video production and broadcast, because like the both of you, I was a journalism major. And at the time, there were not a lot of journalism majors at Clark Atlanta. Everybody in the media program was TV, radio, film, or PR. So I was one of the rare students that was in the traditional print journalism program, but I got a lot of my broadcast experience through CAU TV. I was also a part of an AUC-wide media organization called The Yard. And it was a joint venture between students at Clark, Spelman, and Morehouse. It was sort of like our e-news. So every time there was a major event on campus, we would go cover it. We would set up a green carpet. We would cover cute events that happened in the city that were geared towards students. So that was also really amazing. And of course, Alpha Kappa Alpha, I pledged the Alpha Pi chapter at Clark.
Wow, that's great. You're heavily involved.
I was busy. I was working, honey.
Giana, I hand it to you to answer. I hand it to you, my bad.
Okay, so how would you say attending Clark Atlanta University, how did it contribute to your career and personal development?
That's a good question. I will say that I don't know anyone as resourceful as a person who graduated from Clark Atlanta. Our motto, find a way or make one, is something that is truly applicable to life. And my life and a lot of my peers who graduated from Clark, I think that we are the most resourceful group of individuals that I have ever encountered. So Clark was one of those environments where you were taught to be enterprising, you were taught to be resourceful, you were taught to be solution-based. You were taught to find the solution or the answer or the yes, even though it seemed like the only available option was a no. And that's something that whenever I'm going for a new job, or if I have an interview, or if I'm doing my performance review at work now, I always lead with, I am 100% solutions-based. And it's because of the experience that I had at Clark, and that find a way or make one just forever being embedded in me. I also just think I was a child. I was 17 years old when I went to Clark, when I enrolled as a freshman. And knowing what I know now, I would say that every Black person should go to an HBCU, because once you leave that world, you realize how much we are not regarded as the norm or the right, or people who are worthy to be celebrated and applauded and protected. And Clark spoiled me in that way. I didn't feel like I was the other or the minority or the different person in the room. I just felt like I could really be me and fully be myself. And another thing that I appreciate about Clark, and I think is something that every HBCU offers, is the experience that Blackness is not monolithic, it's not homogenous. There are so many ways to express and be proud of your Blackness. There are so many different personalities within our culture, and I was introduced to that at Clark. I grew up in Texas, in North Texas. I went to schools that were split 33% white, 33% Black, 33% Hispanic. But I hadn't been introduced to people who were from the Caribbean, or people from the East Coast, or people from California even. So just having that experience and being able to celebrate all the facets of Blackness in a very safe space is something that I have not been able to fully experience as a working adult. So I really, really cherished that from my experience there. And it just instills this level of pride in you. Like, you know, I never felt less than because I went to an HBCU. I never felt less than because when I said I went to a Black school in Atlanta, people assumed it was Spelman. I never felt less than because, you know, Clark Atlanta was a smaller institution or not as widely known institution. Clark just instilled this level of just pride in me that I carry into every space that I enter. So that, that's not something that you can necessarily experience in other educational settings, especially at that age, like 17, 18, 19, 20. That's when you are trying to figure out who you are and who you want to be. And Clark helped me figure out I want to be a proud Black woman who carries that into every space that I am. I want to be a resourceful Black woman who always gets the job done. And I credit CAU and my experience there to who I am today.
Wow, and that actually makes for a perfect segue into our next question, which is, after graduating from Clark and then graduating from Columbia University, what was that transition like for you entering into the real world?
It was tough. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to go to grad school because I wasn't ready to enter the workforce. And I knew I did not want to do hard news and have to be relegated to a smaller market. I didn't want to move to West Bumble, Bleep, and wherever to get a job. I wanted to pursue a career in a larger market. So that was my primary motivation to go to grad school and pursue grad school. And I chose Columbia because my journalism professor at the time, Professor James McJunkins, I don't know if he's still there?
He's still there.
Yes.
He's still
Okay.
there.
Professor McJunkins is the reason I went to Columbia. He wrote one of my recommendation letters. And yeah, I wasn't ready to like work per se. And I was still figuring out, do I want to do like journalism print? Do I want to really move into broadcast fully? And I needed more of a broadcast experience beyond, I felt, CAU TV to really help me figure that out and get prepared. And plus it was like a safety net to be in a larger market and have grad school to fall back on. But my grad school program, contrary to most others in the nation, was just 1 year. It was very difficult, very intense, the craziest 1 year of my life in New York City, which I had never been in. However, I assumed that I, got my bachelor's, I got my master's degree, and it just so happens to be from an Ivy League school. I have all this education, I have these internships, I have these connections, I'm gonna get a job. And I didn't. Like right after graduation, I did not get a job. I was working retail for a few months. I was interning at this small publication in New York. And I was like working as an executive assistant for this couple who was trying to start this new media platform. I was kind of all over the place, but I knew that I wanted to find a way or make one. So I just stayed in New York and I tried to pick up as many clips as I could, writing stories here or assisting on this production there. But I eventually got my first job probably a year after I graduated from grad school. And it was through the Columbia Network, oddly enough. But I went on the job portal there. I applied and connected with my first ever real life manager, boss, director. And she met me and she gave me a chance. And that is what started my career. But it wasn't easy. And I tell people now, even if you're considering grad school, like don't think that grad school or a great grad school is going to be your ticket, especially if you don't want to pursue hard news. I did not want to do hard news. Like I said, I did not want to go to a smaller market. And I'm sure I would have gotten that job straight out of school if I chose to make those decisions. But I wanted to be in a space where I felt like I had more opportunity and I could change what I wanted to do. I could flip and make music videos if I wanted to, or work on film if I wanted to, because I was in a market that had those opportunities. So it wasn't easy to get there. It took me some time to start to get some traction in my career, but I was able to do so. I stuck it out. I was working at Abercrombie and Fitch, y'all. I had just graduated grad school. I was 21. So I would have my internship a few days a week, and then I would have to go to Abercrombie and Fitch and smell that nasty ass cologne and be there helping people find jeans. And it was the worst, but I stuck it out.
It's a marathon, not a sprint. Look where it got you.
It's true. That's true.
So you really advocate for amplifying Black women and their voices in these different spaces. Can you describe the importance of Black women being seen and heard?
Well, first off, Black women set pretty much every single trend. In media, in fashion, in beauty, in the arts, in culture, we push a lot of that forward, but we often are never credited. People of color are never credited. Members of the LGBTQIA+ community are never credited. And I think it's something that underrepresented voices, we don't always get the chance. We don't always have the ability to amplify. When we do put things out on our own, it's not always regarded at the same level of a production from a white brand or a white company or a white person. We don't necessarily always get the access. And it was important for me to say, you know, by no means am I the voice for all Black women. By no means am I the voice for all Black people. But when I do get into a space or an environment or a certain room, I understand the responsibility that people are going to look at me as such. I also understand that because I am there, it is then my responsibility to say, if we're going to do a piece on drag queens and how drag queens have affected the beauty industry, it's my responsibility as another minority in that space to say, we should actually probably talk to a drag queen, bring a drag queen here and have them tell their story and just give them the platform and the tools they need to amplify it. So that's how I sort of see it. You know, it's the conversation of, you know, getting a seat at the table, and that's great. But I think, you know, it's an even bigger blessing and opportunity when I can build my own table, which I'm trying to do now, but also in building my own table, not just bring others to mine, but empower them to build their own. I think that, you know, we need a lot of the giving back in the building and empowering people to build and to amplify and share their stories and their voices. So I think I try to do that at least a little bit in my career. And I hope, you know, as I go on, I can do it more and at a grander scale. But I just think it's important. And I've had conversations, you know, it's not always fair per se to say that as a Black person, I feel like I have to go in this room and be the representation for people who are not in this room. But it's just a responsibility that we have to shoulder and carry as Black people. It's just a reality, and we have to continue doing that to the best of our ability until it's a little less of a reality for those who come after us.
Most definitely. And especially right now, Black storytelling is important now more than ever. So what was the inspiration behind producing your digital project, Braided, An American Hair Story?
Mm-hmm. So when I joined Hearst and Elle, I was part of like the first iteration of a video team that worked across multiple platforms. This was 2016, or multiple brands, excuse me. 2016, so video was like a very new frontier, especially merging it with the digital versions of magazines or merging it with print publications. Video was a very, very new frontier. But actually the digital beauty, I want to say editor or director for Elle.com at the time, her name is Julie Schott. She came up with the idea to shoot this braid tutorial series. At the time, our mandate with video was to make really quick 60-second videos that would be really appealing and attention grabbing for Facebook. So we weren't making any sort of long form content. We were just booking these really quick digital shoots, editing it and putting it out. But I think there was this sort of notion that Elle, like plenty of fashion or print publications, was a white person's magazine. And a lot of audiences didn't really necessarily understand that, you know, within a print organization, you can have a totally different digital team. And within that digital team, it's a totally different video team. So Elle Digital and Elle Video was really young, really diverse, really aware of what was happening in the world and aware of what the messaging was for our brand. And we had this series doing braid tutorials on all Black women were in the series. Only Black women were getting their hair braided. But it was like, you know, we should probably give a little more context to braids and why Elle is so vocal about talking about braids right now. And it, you know, it was at a time when the Kardashian Jenners were getting applauded for wearing boxer braids, right? At a time when like baby hairs were starting to go mainstream, but the people and the cultures and communities who originated those styles were not getting credited. And it was literally, we met one day, we were like, let's just make a documentary about braids. And none of us had attempted it before. We didn't know how to go about it, but we said we were gonna do it, and we did it. And we were very, very scrappy. We were still a very new video team. We didn't have a huge budget. So I did a lot of negotiations in terms of our travel, like, hey, airline, we'll give you a credit in this magazine, in this documentary, if you comp our flights, or hey, magazine, or hey, hotel, we'll shoot another video to promote your hotel if you let us stay there for free so we can produce this documentary. So that was a very big find a way or make one situation, because I didn't have the money to make it. My team didn't have the money to make it. But we said we were going to do it, and we were able to get it done. And I just think that was really important. And there was even, you know, criticisms about that piece, because it was only 17, 18 minutes. So of course it doesn't tell the whole story. Of course it can't tell the whole story. But I think it was being in a space where I was working with colleagues who empowered me. And I use that as an opportunity to say, we can empower so many other people with this, let's do it. And I think it's important in doing it that this publication and our brand take accountability for not always recognizing the contributions that Black women in particular have made for beauty culture that's celebrated today.
And so your most recent project was a series of audiograms on race, hair, and microaggressions that Black women face on a daily basis. So as a Black woman in media, how have your personal experience influenced the stories you create and the way you maneuver throughout the media industry?
That project was really, really, really special. The State of Black Beauty with Elle magazine. I have to shout out Chloe Hall, who is a young Black woman and is our current digital beauty director for Elle.com, and also Narisha Penrose, who's an amazing editor and writer, another talented young Black woman on the Elle.com team, who basically spearheaded this entire project and vertical in celebration of Black beauty on Elle. You know, I'm not Rachel Dolezal. I can't say tomorrow I'm gonna take out my braids or remove my extensions and take off my Black face and experience life as a white woman. I don't know if y'all watch Lovecraft Country, but I don't have a potion where I can turn into something other than what I am. So I'm a Black woman. And I think everybody knows and can see and experience that. And I think that when I first started my career, it was a shock for me not to see as many faces that looked like mine or that I could relate to in certain rooms. I had been, like I said, so spoiled by Clark, by Atlanta, by the AUC, and now I'm moving to New York City, which is diverse, but has its own issues dealing with race and sex and class and socio-political whatever. So I think it's one of those situations where you just have to know who you are before you go into a space, and you have to reconcile that people are going to talk about it and point it out. And I am lucky enough to not necessarily work in a traditional hard news setting where we can talk about these microaggressions and certain things that we experience freely, and we are empowered to put it into our work. And it's rare, you know. I don't work for Live at 5 News, where I might have faced a little more resistance in doing this. And I had the fortune of working with a Black beauty director and another Black editor who, like I said, spearheaded this entire project. So I was just blessed enough to be in a space where I was working with people who looked like me. And earlier in my career, a couple of years ago, even that wasn't necessarily the case. But as I've grown at this brand, I have seen it a lot more and just been fortunate with that. But I think the State of Black Beauty was really a great project in working on it, because the year that we started it, I would say a couple months before Hearst had its first like affinity group awakening. So one of my friends who works for marketing at Hearst, she spearheaded Hearst Black Culture. At the time, I had been at Hearst for maybe 3.5, almost 4 years, and I didn't know that many Black people worked there. And granted, we're still the minority, but it was just so empowering and comforting to go into this tower where I didn't feel like there were a lot of us there, and be met by this group of people and us coming together from our different departments and different floors and different teams and saying, there's someone else here who sees me. There are other people here who see me. And literally the group, the genesis of it was right before Breonna Taylor, like right before Ahmaud Arbery, right before George Floyd. And I remember years before being at work at my desk and getting the news about Sandra Bland, or getting the news about Philando Castile, and having to try to collect myself or gather myself or take some time away and then come back to my desk and not have anybody ask, are you okay? Or what happened? Or I heard the news. And this group, Hearst Black Culture, was like having a support session live at the office when we needed it. So just having that resource there, and then also working with colleagues who are also Black women who I have common ground with, saying, we have this platform, we worked our way up in ranks, let's do this story that's important to us, that is important to the culture, that's important to so many people. So it was just, impeccable timing, but also spearheaded by some other amazing Black people that I work with, Black women that I work with. And that was just, it still blows my mind. I'm still super proud of that project, and will be. And I'm so proud that it was led by Black women who are even younger than me. So it was just really, really amazing.
So you actually touched on this earlier, and I would like to go back to it. So you've been able to shed light on other cultures as well, specifically the drag queen and the ballroom culture, which you actually received a Wemmy Award nomination for on the short documentary. So what was that process and experience like for you?
Actually making the piece, or you know what? Like I said earlier, I'm not the representation. I can't speak for every single Black woman, but I am a Black woman. So when it comes to talking about Black women, I'm comfortable. I recognize and understand and can empathize with certain issues that other marginalized communities face, but I am not a part of that community per se, so I cannot speak for that community. As a cisgender straight Black woman, I can't speak for a trans Black woman. I can't speak for a gay Black woman. I have to hand the mic over and let that woman share her experiences on her own. And I think working on the documentary Beat, how drag queens have shaped the beauty industry in America, was really sort of drove that point home for me, right? Because I think that we're so used to certain marginalized things being made pop culture fodder, right? So like Black culture is water cooler conversation because we have the Love and Hip Hop franchise, or drag culture is now something everybody can talk about because we have RuPaul's Drag Race. But these experiences are not just entertainment. People live these things every single day. So that working on that project, there was a little hesitation in certain areas because as a Black woman, I'm going to point out if something, even done with great intent, was done not in the best way, or left out a certain voice, or didn't touch on a certain topic. And I didn't want to work on something where I felt like I have this big brand in my signature and voices feel like they aren't heard or amplified. So that experience, and in anything else that I want to do, it just drove home to me. If you say that you want to empower other people to share their stories or build their own tables, you have to step back, hand over the mic, shut up, and let other people tell their story. So just wanting to take that and apply that to other projects that I work on, to things outside of production is really, really important. But that experience was great. That experience was just very, very eye-opening and sort of inspired the next doc that we're going to work on at Elle, which centers around ball culture. But I think a theme that we want to stay true to in producing like documentaries or long form video projects is amplifying underrepresented voices. So I feel like we did that with Braided, we did that with B, and hopefully our next project does the same. But yeah, you know, it's always a little bit of hesitation because I think people who are not othered think that one othered person can speak for othered people, and that's not the case. So just being cognizant of making sure you do your best to allow other voices to be heard.
So when you share these stories with the public, how does it feel like reading their comments on the comment section and just seeing how many people resonate and relate with the stories you and your team share?
I have to constantly remind myself to, it's easy to get lost in the comments, and it's easy to see 100 great comments and then get that one that's talking shit. And then you just sit with that one rude comment forever. And I think I actually experienced some of that with the State of Black Beauty. A lot of people didn't realize that it was a huge package. We had the digital cover with the amazing Tracee Ellis Ross, and we had the audiograms with microaggressions. We did a photo essay at the Bronner Brothers Hair Show in Atlanta. We had As Told 2 stories from other Black women telling their stories about dealing with beauty and culture in their fields and industries. But I think a lot of people saw the Tracee Ellis Ross cover, and there were some harsh criticisms about it. There were comments saying, you know, hate it, but this looks like a pickaninny, da 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 da. And Tracee Ellis Ross is half white. She can't represent Black beauty for Black people. It was a lot of that. Not a lot of that, but it was enough of that to sort of make me feel a type of way. And you can't always defend it. You can't go to every comment and say, actually, her hairstyle was inspired by a woman's hairstyle at her Ghanaian wedding in Ghana, in Africa. Ain't no pickaninny, nothing about it. You know, you don't want to go back and say, you know, yes, Tracee Ellis Ross is biracial, but that doesn't mean that her experience as a Black woman is any less than, or that she can't speak to it, because in all the work that I've seen her do, she has fully represented Black women. You know, it's a little disheartening sometimes, but you just have to know that enough people saw that and felt seen and felt good about it. And they felt good because it was on a part of a major platform and a major brand. And it let them know that, hey, there are Black women who work here who are trying our best and doing our best and fighting to tell certain stories. And that is what you have to focus on. And it's really inspiring, and it just makes you want to do more, and it makes you want to do more with even more care. It makes you think about how you can tell a story a different way next time, so some of those negative comments don't come out, or explain it or give more context so some people are educated instead of just leaving ignorant or mean or rude comments. But it is gratifying to see, and something that I can say I was a part of at this major publication. And I thought that, you know, 5 years ago, 6, 7 years ago, this was only happening with, you know, the Essences and Ebonies of the world, which are stellar publications. But to see some of these other mainstream publications catch up and to be a very small part of that is very fulfilling, and I'm very happy about it.
And so before I pass the mic back to Derrian, so we could talk a little bit more about your online retailing company, I do want to ask, you've been able to be a part of other fun projects that have gone viral, like Song Association. So out of all the celebrities you come in contact with for that series, who has left you starstruck the most?
Oh, wow. Actually, I don't know if it was starstruck or I was just in my feels. But the artist whose song I walked down the aisle to, I was actually able to work with his publicist to get him in to play it. His name is Adrian Marcel. He's an independent artist out of Oakland, and I just love his music, and his music meant so much to me and my wedding day and all of that stuff. So we had him in, and it was really, really amazing. Um, Starstruck. Who had me starstruck? Maybe Kelly Rowland, but she just has such great energy and is just so genuinely nice. And she did her part to make everybody feel comfortable. You know, it's like a lot of times people will say, like, you know, there's a certain caliber of star that doesn't have to rub in your face that they are a star. They just have that presence and they do their job and they do it really well, and make everybody else around them feel at ease. She was one of those artists. And we recently did a virtual episode with Alicia Keys, and she just blew my mind. She's just her her musical, like, I mean, she's classically trained, so of course, and she knows all these genres she plays and she writes, but just her mind and how she came up with the songs and just the joy that she had in playing this little internet game was so great. So she was one of my favorites, my most recent favorites for sure.
All right. Like Giana said, your online retailer, Amp Beauty LA. Can you talk to us about what that is and the inspiration for it?
Yes. So Amp Beauty LA is a Black woman-owned online retailer. Our mission is to amplify Black beauty and create a digital space where Black women and other women of color and other beauty lovers of color can shop for their beauty products online in a very easy, convenient, and elevated way. Um, and the genesis of it was actually pre-pandemic a couple of years ago. I was out visiting two of my line sisters in LA, and we went to dinner, and I had left some of my beauty products at home, namely edge control. So we were out at dinner, and I said, "Hey y'all, is there anywhere around here I can run and get some edge control real quick?" And they're like, "No girl, you gotta go to like out to Inglewood for that, or you can probably drive through Gardena," which was not close to the area that we were in. So it just sort of led to this conversation about just our access to beauty and how we shop for beauty and experience beauty. You know, a lot of times, I'm sure some of y'all on this call had the same experience, but you go to the store and it's the ethnic aisle or the Black hair section. And, you know, you go to a Sephora and you love the experience. They have amazing products, but they don't have like the edge control that you use. They don't have the shea butter that you can get from your local beauty supply. They don't have the boar bristle brush or that you're looking for. You know, they don't have the cultural favorites that we use and that we need. And then you go to like the local beauty supply store, and they're not owned by Black people. The Asian community owns a lot of beauty supply stores in America, and we don't have a lot of access to ownership in that space. So we wanted to change that. We wanted to create this one-stop shop where you can get everything from your mass $1 cocoa butter stick to your $150 flat iron to your $200 face cream. We want to just build this central space where you can shop for all beauty in a single destination. And one thing that we really wanted to drive home was like shelf space. There are some amazing Black owned beauty brands owned by other people of color that just simply don't have shelf space. You're not going to find them in certain stores because certain stores won't carry them or give them a chance. So we wanted to make sure that we were, you know, onboarding brands that were made for us, by us, with amazing ingredients and clean ingredients, products that we've used and loved, and just sort of bring them in a central area, in a central space. So we just launched in September. So we're still building. We're going to be adding more brands and products, and then Next year, introducing some tech elements that we hope really make that experience easier. So things like a facial scan to say, hey girl, you got a little hyperpigmentation, or you got some sun damage, you should probably start using SPF. So we want to really, centralize it, but also add elements, because we're all at home and everybody's shopping from home, to make it that much easier for us.
And you touched on it earlier about the your sorority sisters. Can you talk to us about how important like your team was and how essential they were to you as a person and to your AMP Beauty LA business?
Yes, so I'm the A in AMP Beauty LA. My line sister Montre Moore is the M, and our line sister Felicia Phillips is the P. So this was it's so crazy how certain things like come together. Of all three of us, only one, Montre, had actual like traditional luxury beauty retail experience, but we were able to, draw from our experiences as consumers, as customers, and my editorial experience, my production experience. Felicia, she's a lawyer and she works for a major tech company. So bringing all of our interests together and our skill sets together, because they're all viable in building a new business. And we say it all the time, like, I always wanted a beauty supply store. I wanted a brick and mortar beauty supply store. I didn't care where it was, but I just always loved consuming beauty. But there's no way I could have done it by myself. Like, I talked about it for years before going to dinner with them and asking where I could get some edge control. And, they had a version and an iteration of what that could be in their own mind. Felicia grew up in a family of Black entrepreneurs, so she always wanted to start something. Montre had another beauty business of her own that she was launching. So it was just a matter of saying, three are stronger than one. We should come together and we can do this together. And I think that, there are stats like Black women are the fastest group of growing entrepreneurs in the country, but a lot of us are solopreneurs. A lot of us are running businesses by ourselves and getting burnt out and exiting before we even have a chance to build, because we can't do it by ourselves. And I think going into this and knowing what we know now, sort of forecasting it back then, it was important to say, it's going to take all three of us and our various skills to get certain elements of this business off the ground, which are going to bolster the business in its entirety. We have to do it together. And then our support, like our earliest customers were, of course, our line sisters and our sorors, and they've shared it and amplified it with their network, and it goes on and on and on. And you know how important word of mouth is in business. And I think for us too, being a new business, it's important to get like direct feedback, like not some random box at the counter that you could drop a note in, but have people who we know come to us and say, you should get this, or I didn't really understand this experience on the site, or it was hard for me to find this, or this product didn't work for me at all. You might want to reconsider. So that is very important. And it's great to have a community, a tribe of people who are supporting us, but also giving us feedback that we need so that we can just get better as we grow and are introduced to a whole new market of customers.
Got you. And before we get into the chat questions, because I see there's a lot, can you talk to us about how did you collaborate with all these diverse set of Black brands for your AMP Beauty LA?
Yeah, some of them, so I'm lucky to work at a print publication that has an amazing beauty closet and very generous beauty editors. Brands will send products to the office and I was able to test them out or try them out. But I, especially when it comes to my hair, I have psoriasis of my scalp. My scalp is crazy. It'll flare up at any moment. I have very sensitive skin, the wrong product, and I'm breaking out all over. So I think in my personal beauty routine, I was just looking for better ingredients, and I was looking for products that were made for my hair type or for melanated skin. And I would go to an event here and randomly run across this person who sold this butter. And one in particular, Mel's Butter Blends. It's my favorite. It's so good. I met her at an event and she gave me a sample and I used it and I read the ingredients. I was like, it's natural. It's all pure. It's 100%. Let me start using it. And I just loved it that much. And when we started talking about building the store, I was like, we have to carry this brand. We have to carry this brand. And I think that we all came into it sort of having our own collection of Black owned brands that we like really loved, really admired, used in real life that we wanted to bring to the table. And you know, we all have different beauty concerns and needs. So there have been products that have that we wanted to try that I was really into, but I have sensitive skin, so I can't use it. So, hey, Montre, can you try it and see how it works with you? Or Felicia, you really like this. Let me try it and see if it works for me. So we wanted to have like a personal connection and vouch for these brands and say, you know, this product is great. It might be too strong if you have sensitive skin, but it'll work if you have this. And at the beginning, it was just like a grind. We would reach out to brands. We would get on the phone calls with each and every one, make an introduction and talk to them, tell them about what we were building. And, you know, it was important for us to like really build relationships too. Like we wanted to know what we were carrying. We wanted to know the people behind it and why they started it. And, you know, those conversations were super reinvigorating because, you know, we're trying to deal with like bank statements and trademarks and legalities and all this stuff, but then you connect with a founder who makes this amazing skincare range and they're so passionate about what they're building. You're like, okay, we got to get it together because we want to be a space for them. We hope to be a space for them. So that was like a really fun part. And that's something that really kept us going, knowing that we made these connections and brands believed in us enough. It really made us want to keep at it and do our part to make sure we got it off the ground.
Got you. That was great. And let's get into some of the questions that we have in the chat. Giana, you take it away.
Okay, so Kayla, she would like to know, what is one thing that you would tell your younger self if you could go back in time?
Oh, to be smarter about my money. I don't know how I made it this long, y'all. I'm not good with like budgeting. I'm not good with like saving. I just sort of got into investing. But I think just educating myself about finances earlier on, that's just really important. And unfortunately for a lot of us, you know, we don't necessarily come from wealth or we don't have that trust fund. We don't have that pool of nepotism to draw from when it's time to enter, you know, the corporate world. But we are a part of a generation where we have more resources and tools now, to sort of figure those things out. So definitely just be wiser with your money and your spending. And also ownership is important. So, you know, you guys might not want to start your own business, but you should own your own name as a domain. You should own GianaLevy.com and KaylaGrant.com, because your brand is so important to career. Like it doesn't matter that you're just skilled or you do your job really well. Your personal brand ties into a lot of access that you're going to get in your career as well. So make sure you're doing the work now to build your brand, hone it, and then also own it. So everybody go buy your domain after this, your first name, last name, whatever you're going to go by professionally, make sure you own that.
So Miranda would like to know, was it a hard transition from an HBCU to an Ivy League?
Yes, it was. It was a very hard transition. One, I had never been to New York City before. I had never been out of the South before, and I was going to the craziest city in the world. My first time there was the day I flew there to move into my apartment for school. So that was very difficult. But also, I was at an Ivy League institution, and I was also I had just turned 21 before I started my first my first semester of grad school. And a lot of my colleagues were in their 30s, older. Some of them had already written for the New York Times and the Washington Post, and they were just going back to school to add some new credentials to their resume. That was a little intimidating. It really was. But I was lucky enough to have, there was a group of my Black women classmates who were there. We were all pretty young and like new in our careers, and we stuck together and like supported each other. And we still have a group text thread to this day. So even though it was something that was difficult to transition to, I still was able to find support within that environment. But yeah, me personally, if I could go back, I don't know if I would necessarily want to go to grad school again, but I think of the network that it afforded me and the security it gave me to be in New York City at the time when I really wanted to be there. That was really important, but it was definitely a culture shock. And not even just because there weren't a lot of Black people there, but because I was also dealing with a lot of classmates who were way more experienced than me and much older. So that made me, you know, kind of wonder too, like, why did y'all accept me? Why am I here? What do I do? But ultimately, you know, the good outweighed the bad. And I have, like I said, a strong network of just amazing Black women in media who I met there, who I'm still connected with to this day.
So Kenyatta, she says that she loved the Tracee Ellis Ross issue of Elle this year. Could you talk more about your experience working with her and making her vision come to life with the cover story?
So that, the Tracee Ellis Ross cover was sort of the holy grail situation of our State of Black Beauty piece. And again, I have to give full credit to that to Chloe Hall. Everyone here should follow her. She's our beauty director for Elle.com, and Narisha Penrose, who's an editor for Elle.com as well. They like really spearheaded that, bringing together that cover story and getting Tracee involved. And one thing I can say about Tracee and working on that project, even I had a very small role in her actual cover, but we did some pre-production calls with her and her team, and there was one phone call in particular where there were some other colleagues who were not Black women, and they were on the call, and Tracee said, you know, I would love to speak to just Chloe, Narisha, and Angel about this. So if we could get on another call where I can just talk to them about this. And she got on the phone with just us, and she said, you know, I really want to make sure that this is your vision and your idea for this and what you see, and not what a non-Black woman in your organization wants this to be. And that was just a really empowering moment to have this massive star say, I see you, and I want to make sure if I'm a part of this that you feel seen. So she was just amazing and stellar all around, and I stand Tracee Ellis Ross from now until forever. She was just really, really amazing and great. And I think I credit like Chloe as well, because her work and pulling that together and making sure it was a Black woman who wrote the story, connecting her to Kerry Washington. That her cover story was a conversation with Kerry. So making sure Tracee was in conversation with another Black woman, making sure that it was photographed by a Black woman and styled by a Black woman, and just all of those elements coming together, making sure that the story, the creative, the visual, what was said was directly from a Black woman, was just amazing. So I love that. And again, Chloe Hall, Narisha Penrose, they are amazing, and they really fought for that and saw that through.
Kayla would like to know, what are some of the biggest gems to the media world that you wish you knew after you graduated Columbia University?
What did I wish I knew after I graduated Columbia? That I probably could have made it without signing on for all this student loan debt from my grad school. I had a full ride to Clark, and like I was a kid. I was like, I gotta go to grad school because I don't have a job. I don't want to work it. Da, 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 da. And I could have done a lot of what I've done without having that on my resume or part of my, when people talk to me now, like Columbia is not top of mind. People know Angel went to Clark Atlanta. That's it. When they think about my education. So just recognizing you don't necessarily need this super recognizable name, scholastic record, Ivy League, whatever. If you want to go to grad school, that's great. Make sure you really do your research and look into the program that you're going into. Try to connect with alum and see how it's benefited them. That's something I wish I had done. But yeah, you don't need certain things to be successful. You don't need the degree to necessarily be successful, but you do need the experience. And who you know and the connections you make is what's going to take you everywhere in this industry. My first job I got because it was a woman who was an alum of the same program, and she just so happened to also have gone to Georgia State. So she was familiar with Atlanta. She saw Columbia. She knew about Clark Atlanta, and she was like, I'm going to give you a chance in a job. My job now at L, I got it because a coworker at my first job vouched for me with her friend who was creating this video team at Hearst. So it's important that you are mindful of the impressions that you're making and the impression that you want to make, right? Like who you want to be, who you want to show up as, because people are watching, they're paying attention, and the link between you and that dream job could be somebody who you left a mark on in a great way. So yeah.
So we do want to be mindful of your time because it is precious. So do you have time to answer about 5 more questions from the chat, Angel?
Yes, y'all can go right ahead.
Okay,
I don't
great.
have much to do today. It's still early. I'm in LA right now, so I'm like, I got a little more time.
Okay. So another question is, where do you see yourself in 5 years? And what are some of your goals as you continue your journey?
I saw that question in the chat. I saw it show up, and I was like, "Oh, don't ask me because I don't know." I'm very honest when I say I do not know where I'm going to be in 5 years. How do I answer this? Okay, I have this journal, right? And on the cover it says manifest. So every so often I'll go in, I'll write down a goal here, I'll write down a word here, whatever. And one of my words that I wrote down recently, and when I say recently, probably like a year and a half ago, because I don't update it regularly, but I wrote down ownership. Ownership is super important to me. Owning my own business, owning my own company, whatever that is, whatever that means. And I think I had that word in mind as like AMP was coming to fruition, and as I was working with my line sisters and business partners to build that out. But 5 years from now, I want to not be in corporate America. I want to own my business and own what I'm working on. I would love to like try something totally different and outside of my comfort zone. I have always loved music videos. Music videos is what actually got me interested in media and storytelling in general. So I don't know, I would love to work or like concept a music video. It just needs to be one. That's it. I'll be good. I would love to work on something for Beyonce. Again, I don't know what it is or how it's going to come together, but love the lady. Would love to see my name in her credits somehow. But I do definitely still see myself in the creative space as it pertains to media and production, definitely video, definitely moving images and visuals. But I would like to do it independently and not tied to a big brand. So away from corporate, and also just tap into like more of the creative avenues. So something scripted, a film, an amazing miniseries, music video. Although I started off in journalism as my major, I've like year over year sort of stepped away further and further from that. But at my core, I just really love to tell stories. I love to tell stories. So as long as I'm able to do that in some capacity, I will be happy. And traveling more often, because this year, I don't know what's going on. I'm ready to take some more vacation.
Same. So
Yes.
Giana wants to know, how do you make time for self-care?
So I'm a beauty girl. I've always loved beauty, and I'm an only child. So having alone time and me time is very, very important. And I try to pepper in a little bit of it every single day. When I do like my morning and my nighttime routine, that's when it's just me, my products, my music if I want to. Don't bother me, phone off, and I just really zone in and tune into myself. But I have really had to reassess what I thought was taking time for myself, especially in this pandemic. I realized that the boundaries between work and not work were being blurred because we were all home and we were home all the time. And because I love to show up and say that I did and got it done, I would be working past my normal hours because I'm at home. I'm not going anywhere. It doesn't hurt. I was making myself accessible to people outside of my working hours because I'm home, not doing nothing else. I can do it. I can work. And I had to get to a point where I was like, this is my hard stop. This is not going to make me a millionaire. This is not going to contribute to me growing my business. This is my hard stop for all the work that falls on this side of the list. And I stop. The laptop goes down. I might scroll my gossip blogs if I feel like some entertainment, but I step away from the devices and everything. And I had to do that in my Monday through Friday, my everyday, and also on the weekends. Like, we have our like AMP team meetings. We have them early on Sundays to sort of like make sure we know what we need to talk about for the week. But beyond that, I don't work. I have my day where I don't look at my laptop, I don't check any emails, and I just do what I want to do. And a lot of times that's nothing at all. But you have to be responsible for setting your boundaries and establishing that in any space. And don't feel bad for setting a precedent from when you're accessible and when you're not. Because if you go into the office and you're the new kid who is available 24/7 and you're going to answer every email within the 5 minutes that it comes to you, people are going to have that expectation for you for the rest of your time there. It's going to be a habit, and then you're going to carry it on to the next job and the next job and the next job. So I've had to refine what those boundaries were, but just learning how to set them and stick to them, and know that you have to be nimble in what your boundaries are depending on what you're working on is really, really, really important. And y'all can say no. Y'all are young, and I'm sure that y'all are eager to get going, and you want to be the yes, I can do, and again, solutions oriented. But saying yes, I'll do this right now is different from saying yes, I can do this, but it's a low priority because I have other priorities on my list, so I'm going to get this to you tomorrow. I think you got to, learn early on how to say yes in a way that doesn't take away from your time and the time that you need to take care of yourself. And saying no right now does not mean you're saying no forever.
Yes, boundaries are very important because people will take it if we do not set them.
Yes.
So, Giana says, as a fellow lover of Beyonce, I can't believe you worked with Ashley Everett. How was that experience, and how did you separate your personal fangirl moments from your profession?
I think that's why when you asked me earlier if I'd ever been starstruck, it took a minute, and I was kind of like, not really. Because now, if I walk on the set and Beyonce is there, that might be a different story. But I think that you just have to know when work is work, and especially me, like on a lot of the projects, I'm a supervising producer, so we don't have an in-house director. So a lot of times I have to serve in that role. When I walk on the set, that set is my set. That set is my team's set, and how I act on set is going to affect how my team acts. If I fangirl, my team is going to think it's all hee hee ha ha and are not going to do their job to the level that they should. So you just always want to show up when you're working in work mode. But Ashley was like, she was really great, really professional. I think that's the thing, you have to realize too that people, celebrity or not, are people. And you might think that you're, showing up to shoot this celebrity or work with a celebrity, but for them it's work too. So they're showing up to work too. Everybody is there to work. So if you have that mentality, you're going to be good. And I blush too. So I might have a straight face and I might be getting my job done, but I've been turning red this whole conversation. I will just turn beet red, but I'll still do my work and do my job.
So Giana also wants to know, how do you balance your responsibilities at Elle and AMP Beauty LA and make sure you give your all to every role?
The boundaries, like right now, I love my job and I'm so fortunate to be able to work for an organization and have job security right now. But also that job is 10 to 6 and I got to cut it off at 6 o'clock. And when I cut it off at 6 o'clock, that's my time to dedicate to my business, what I want to build. And honestly, right now in my life, like I said, ownership is very important. So I have to prioritize building this business as much as I do performing at work. And it's been everything. It's been days where I've had 2 tabs open and 2 screens up and I'm trying to do 2 things at once. And it's days where I'm like, I need a personal and a break from both of these things right now, because it's going to drive me crazy and I'm going to get overwhelmed. But in doing so, there have been some all-nighters, because I still do have to do my job that pays my check, but I do have to spend the time to build something so that I don't have to worry about a job paying my check anymore. So it's, now that we are launched and we are out and we are live, it's a little more of a settle in a groove because it's out there and you already have it. So now the job is building something better, not necessarily just building it from scratch, right? But with like my 10 to 6 o'clock, close the tab, laptop down, Slack is off. I can't work on that and I can get to you, but I'm gonna have to get to you tomorrow at 10 o'clock. So just making that commitment and sticking to it. And I think too, like, if you're the type of person that's going to do a good job, people know you're going to do your job and you're going to build that autonomy and trust in your workplace. So I'm not going to respond to your text at 7 o'clock, Bob, but I'm going to get back to you tomorrow and I'm going to get done whatever you want me to get done. So if you build that rapport of making sure you do your job to the best of your ability, you will have a little more of that autonomy to say, if I have to step away, I have to step away. And I think employers now with Black Lives Matter, social justice uprisings, the election, and then a pandemic on top of that, and people struggling financially and not having access, I think employers now are a little more aware of giving their employees time and space and recognizing that we need that and that our mental health is important too. But again, if you get put in a space where you feel like you have to perform, it is going to be up to you to set the precedent that you have boundaries and everybody else has to respect them. I'm gonna get the job done, but it's in low priority right now. I have to get this done first, or I have to step away from this to do my job best here. So it's a balancing act and I'm still learning. But like when I close this laptop and I'm done with y'all, I'm done for the day. I'm not opening nothing. It's Friday. Bye.
So our last question is, what are some of your favorite beauty trends at the moment?
Oh, my favorite beauty trends at the moment. Um, I don't know if they're necessarily like really new. I'll start with skincare. I think that I've always loved skincare and taking care of my skin, and like I have sensitive skin, so I have to be cognizant of what I'm using on it. But I think for so long, people masked not taking care of their skin with taking on a lot of makeup. And I'm really into people, because we're home, we're not wearing makeup that often, paying more attention to their skin and what their skin needs and putting that first. And just finding more confidence in our skin versus having confidence only when we have a full face of makeup. Love that. Braids everywhere, all over. I used to wear braids when I was a little girl all the time, and when I was in college, the natural hair movement was not a thing. It was not a thing. It came about when I was a little older. I had been in New York and all that stuff, but just seeing so many people embrace more like natural hairstyles. And it's crazy because when I came to Clark, I had a relaxer in my hair, and I didn't get rid of it until I went to New York after I graduated. But like prior to maybe 3-4 years ago, I hadn't worn braids as an adult in forever. And I started getting braids again and feeling comfortable, because I don't know if you guys know like about the Crown Act, but it's still illegal in a lot of states for Black people. Not illegal, but you can still lose your job in a lot of states for wearing your hair in a natural hairstyle. That was the reality. And for me, going into the workforce, it was like, you got to have your hair straight. It has to be done. As y'all know, our messy bun is not the same as another person's messy bun. So there was this notion that Black people's hair, wearing natural hairstyles, was not polished. And it's not a trend, I'll say, but I'm glad and happy to see more natural hairstyles in the workspace now. I wear braids at work a lot. I was wearing braids at work a lot, and it was just really like, I didn't feel like othered to do so. And I know a lot of that came from working in more of a creative space. If I was an anchor on the news, like one of my line sisters, I couldn't wear cornrows on camera yet, I'm sure. But I think we're getting to a place where we can, and that can be deemed, acceptable. And any other trends? I've always liked colored eyeliner. That's I don't know, that's just a random, but just colored eyeliner. I think it's fun. It's a nice little pop. And yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Angel, for coming to speak to our members. This was a phenomenal conversation. I'm so glad we were able to work around your schedule and just have you come and drop these gems to us. I know I appreciate it, Derrian appreciates it, our members appreciate it, and we just really appreciate this conversation.
Well, I'm so glad. Like I said, I know the journalism department is smaller at Clark compared to some other ones, but I'm here, and I hope that I can be like a resource for you all in whatever way that I can. Justin, I will drop my email in this chat. Y'all have to forgive me. I know Kenyatta's like emailed me before, and it took me forever to get back, but I will eventually get back. I'm just a slow lady, but I have to commend you guys. I think this is awesome. Especially, orchestrating something like this in a pandemic where you don't have access to the campus and being able to be together in person, but to see you guys still work and strive is really, really amazing. So I hope things clear up and y'all can get back to the promenade soon, because that's the fun part.
Right.
But, thank you for having me. And I think this series is great. I hope y'all keep doing it and bringing more people on. And yeah, just good luck. And I'm glad y'all do have a little earlier of a holiday break coming up. So, definitely enjoy that reset, and make sure you guys are like taking care of yourselves too.
Thank you so much. And again, like Giana said, we at NABJ really appreciate you coming. Have a great day. Wear a mask when you're out in public, social distance, stay 6 feet away, all those good stuff. Have a great day.
You too. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.